You know, the whole promise of blockchain was this amazing new Internet of Value. It was supposed to be secure, decentralized, totally open. But there was a huge catch. It was often painfully slow and ridiculously expensive. It honestly felt like trying to use a dial-up modem in a world that's already on fiber optics. This is the story of a project that was built to fix that, a project that was obsessed with just one thing: raw, unadulterated speed.
Okay, so to really wrap your head around what Solana is, we have to go back to the original problem it was designed to solve. So you have these revolutionary early blockchains, right? Bitcoin, Ethereum, but they were built in a way that required every single computer on the network to constantly talk to each other just to agree on what happened and in what order. As you can imagine, this created a massive bottleneck, limiting them to just a tiny handful of transactions every second. This wasn't just an inconvenience, it was a total roadblock for any kind of real-world mainstream use.
And when I say bottleneck, I mean the scale of this problem is just staggering. Look at this. Bitcoin can handle what? Maybe 7 transactions a second. Ethereum, on a good day, maybe 15. Now compare that to a centralized giant like Visa, which can process up to 65,000 transactions per second. The difference isn't just big, it's astronomical. I mean, they're not even playing the same sport. For crypto to have any chance of going mainstream, it had to close that gap.
Now, this exact challenge became an obsession for a software engineer named Anatoly Yakovenko. His background was at Qualcomm, designing incredibly complex distributed systems where efficiency and speed are literally everything. So he looks at this blockchain bottleneck, and he has this realization that, hey, this is a problem he spent his entire career solving, just, in a totally different arena.
So what was the big breakthrough? Yakovenko's aha moment was realizing that blockchains are missing something incredibly basic: a single trustworthy source of time. Without a reliable clock that everyone on the network could agree on, all the computers had to waste a ton of time and energy just debating the order of transactions. He believed that if you could just solve the clock problem, you could unlock absolutely massive exponential speed.
And that one core insight? Well, that became the absolute foundation for his 2017 white paper. This wasn't just another proposal for a slightly faster blockchain. It was a blueprint for a completely new way of thinking, an architecture built from the ground up around this idea of a decentralized clock.
And the solution he came up with was called proof of history. Now, don't let the technical name scare you off. The easiest way to think of proof of history, or POH, is as a decentralized clock for the entire network. It's a cryptographic way to create a verifiable timestamp, proving that a specific event happened at a specific moment in time. It creates this perfect, tamper-proof historical record that everyone can see and trust.
So here's how that actually works. When you submit a transaction on Solana, proof of history basically stamps it with a unique cryptographic timestamp. It's like getting a receipt from a timestamping machine that nobody on Earth can possibly fake. And because every single transaction has this verifiable timestamp, the validators don't have to waste time arguing back and forth to agree on the order. They can just grab batches of transactions and process them in the sequence they already know is correct. And that right there is what speeds everything up so dramatically.
But, and this is a really crucial point, POW doesn't work alone. It's paired with the more familiar proof of stake, or POS, model. Think of it like a two-layered system. Proof of history has one job and one job only: order the transactions. It figures out when everything happened. Then proof of stake comes in to do the actual security work, validating the transactions and making sure the network is secure. You get speed from one and security from the other.
So with this totally new engine under the hood, Solana launched its mainnet in March 2020. And what happened next? Well, it was nothing short of a rocket ship ride. The platform's promise of insane speed and super low fees just caught fire, right in the middle of a massive crypto bull run.
I mean, the numbers were just wild. In 2021 alone, the price of Solana's own token, SOL, shot up by nearly 12,000%. And this wasn't just hype, it was being driven by a huge wave of genuine interest and a ton of new development.
At its absolute peak in November of 2021, that price surge meant Solana had a market cap of over $74 billion. It felt like overnight, Solana had become a household name in crypto and a solid top 10 project.
And all that money fueled an absolute explosion in the ecosystem. Suddenly, you had over 1,000 projects in DeFi, NFTs, and Web3 all building on Solana. NFT marketplaces like Magic Eden basically took over the space. So why was everyone flocking there? Simple. Developers were just desperate for an alternative to Ethereum's cripplingly high gas fees, and Solana was offering them a high-speed, low-cost paradise.
But as we all know, when you move that fast, you tend to break things. And the rocket ship ride pretty quickly hit some very severe turbulence. The crazy thing is, the very feature that made Solana so attractive, its ability to handle all that volume, also became its greatest weakness.
The problems just came in waves, one after another. First, the network itself started to buckle. In September 2021, a huge surge of transactions just knocked it completely offline for 17 hours. Then came security issues, like a major wallet hack in 2022. But the real knockout blow came from its biggest supporter. In November 2022, the crypto exchange FTX, which held a massive amount of SOL, completely collapsed. Its failure not only crashed the price, but exposed this deep, painful irony. A supposedly decentralized project was incredibly tied to a single centralized point of failure. And to top it all off, the SEC filed a lawsuit in 2023, casting a giant cloud of regulatory uncertainty over everything.
And look, these problems did not go unnoticed. This wasn't just crypto Twitter drama. As the financial giant Fidelity pointed out, Solana's reliability issues were a serious, serious problem. I mean, if you're trying to be the foundation for a whole new financial system, going offline for almost a full day is a pretty critical flaw.
So after the crash, after the crisis of confidence, the big question became, what's next? This final chapter of the story is all about recovery, about rebuilding, and about Solana's fight to prove that its technology can finally live up to that incredible initial promise.
A huge piece of this recovery puzzle is a project called FireDancer. Okay, think of the software that runs the network like a web browser. Right now, almost everyone running Solana is using the same client, let's call it Chrome. If there's a bug in Chrome, the whole network can go down. FireDancer is like Firefox, a completely separate, independently built piece of software. The goal is to create diversity, so if one client has a problem, the other one can keep the network running. It's a direct, powerful answer to those stability issues.
So if we put it all together, this is kind of where things stand today. Solana still has this massive, undeniable advantage in raw transaction speed and cost when you compare it to Ethereum. But the trade-off is just as clear. Solana's biggest challenge is still reliability and those lingering concerns about centralization. Meanwhile, Ethereum is still fighting its own demons of scalability and those painfully high fees.
But even with all the challenges, Solana is still pushing hard for mainstream adoption. They launched the Saga, a smartphone built from the ground up for Web3. They landed a huge partnership with Visa to use the network for stablecoin payments. And, kind of famously, its speed made it the go-to chain for the whole meme coin craze, with these high-volume projects basically acting as a massive stress test for the network.
And that brings us to the final billion-dollar question, doesn't it? Solana was built on a truly revolutionary idea to solve blockchain's biggest problem, speed. And on that front, you have to say it succeeded spectacularly, but its journey has been defined by instability and crisis. So can its incredible technological edge finally overcome a history of broken trust? That is the question that will define its future and maybe the future of high-performance blockchains everywhere.